Hey, my name is Sarah and welcome back to another episode of Talking Fast. Alongside me, just like every week, is manager Jacob. And also, you were all, we're blessed with the sound of rainfall, I guess, for today's episode. We're unsure if you can actually hear it or not.
There's a downpour outside.
Like downpour. Like it's very distracting.
It's very pitter patter. It's giving ASMR.
It is. It's giving the little like tippy tappies a little bit.
I'm actually getting the hairs on the back of my neck are standing up. Surprisingly, I have hairs back there.
I was going to say, it's not that type of podcast, but I guess today it might be. So if you can hear rain, it actually might be beautiful and sunny where you are. But there is a torrential downpour thunderstorm happening here when we are recording this podcast. But with that being said, I don't really care about the thunderstorm. What I do care about, Jacob, is what are you drinking or eating this week?
Sarah, it's summertime and I don't know if we're in the heart of it, the middle of it, but it's...
Unfortunately, I think we are in the middle of it.
Peach season. No.
It is peach season.
Yeah, so you're in the middle of summer, so you're kind of on the back half of it. But, that brings along the fruits of Ontario peaches. Listen, I don't want to necessarily give a shout out to Ontario peaches, like the consortium
farmers?
that lobbies on behalf of... Maybe I do. I don't know.
I don't think we have anything against peaches.
No,
or peach
all
farmers?
I want to say
Would
is
they be
that I
peach
love
farmers?
all peaches equally, no matter if they're from Ontario or somewhere else.
Got it.
I just happen to be eating Ontario peaches these days.
Got it.
Whew, there's nothing like a peach cobbler, a regular peach.
I don't think I've ever had a peach cobbler before.
Do you eat peaches?
So I was just going to say, I don't normally, but I just had an incredible peach ricotta bruschetta the other day at Italy. It was amazing.
Oh, okay.
It was so yummy.
See, this is what I'm saying. You can eat peaches on their own. You can eat the classic desserts, or they can just like add a little something extra to like a summer salad or something like that. So you know what? That's what I've been consuming.
Peaches.
I think it's like in season. It's just delicious. So.
Not your peaches from Georgia, your peaches from Ontario.
Well, I've been listening to the song too.
Yeah, of course you have been.
What about you? What have you been drinking or eating this week?
So I was blessed earlier this year when an Aroma coffee opened up in my neighborhood. I had seen the sign for about 3 years since I've lived there, and then it finally opened up this year. And I love Aroma. Their sandwiches are so good, whatever. But I've recently become obsessed with the iced Aroma. It's like what they're known for. It's like their version of an ice cap.
Okay.
It is so yummy. Does not taste like sugary and fake and whatever like an ice cap does.
Yeah.
It is so delicious. I don't even know what the flavors are, but it's so yummy.
And is this the place where you get like the little chocolate?
Yep,
with your,
every single time you get a little treat. I'm not a big
classy.
chocolate person, but like I bring the chocolates home and Nolan eats it. But yeah, we get a little chocolate with it. Yeah.
Okay.
I love Aroma.
I'll try that.
Yeah.
What about what are we watching or reading this week? And I know from looking at it before, I think we have the same one.
We have the same answer. Ready? 3, 2, 1.
The
Bear.
Bear.
Season 2. Holy shit.
Wow.
Okay, so Jacob and I had a meeting before this and we purposely did not talk about the episode or the season because we want to save it. I thought this season was better than last season.
I did too. And I was like, okay,
which is shocking.
First season was so good.
Yeah.
And it's wild when you see a first season of a new show come out and just like it got a lot of critical acclaim. The cast is great.
Yeah.
The writing was great. And just like the production of the first season was fantastic. So you're like, oh, how is the second season going to go? I agree. I think it's just as good and better.
And then you can also tell that it's got so much like outward acclaim because of the guest stars that were on this season. You've got like Jamie Lee
the
Curtis.
Christmas episode alone.
Unbelievable. Also,
Gillian Jacobs, Bob Odenkirk.
John Mulaney.
Bob Odenkirk. Yeah, I know, it's stacked.
Sarah Paulson. Like it was crazy.
And they were all so good.
They were
Jamie Lee Curtis.
So unbelievable. Like she could win an Emmy
that's
as
what
a guest
I said.
actor.
I was halfway through that Christmas episode and I was just like, I wouldn't be surprised if she wins an Emmy just for this episode.
It was
alone.
incredible. If you haven't watched The Bear yet, you can watch it on Disney Plus in Canada. Now season 2 is fully streamed. It took a little while for it to get there, but now you can watch season 1 and 2. I highly recommend it. If you like a feel-good show like Ted Lasso, look, it's not as like, it's different than Ted Lasso, but it's the same feeling you get when you watch it. Like
especially the last 3 episodes
where you
of this
fall in
season,
love
the
with
Taylor Swift moment.
Yeah, I know.
I couldn't help. I was like not crying, but like
you're
it's
just
a giddy moment.
Exactly. You learn to love these characters. You love their flaws. You love their character arc. And it's just it's one of the best shows that I've like watched in recent years. And go watch The Bear if you haven't already. Season 2 is incredible. And I'm okay if they're going to win all the Emmys. They should. It'll be like them in Succession winning everything.
Okay, also, the music direction is so good on the show.
Good.
And what did I say off the first episode, watching the first couple of episodes, the costume. It's just like
it's so good.
Like, I don't even know what you call it, but like it's styling, I guess, because it's just making the costumes, but also really, really good.
There's nothing, and also Matty Matheson is in this season way more. You can tell they
and
like really,
and he's really good.
Really good. I literally watch and have to forget that he's a chef first, not an actor first.
Yeah.
which is a good way to put it.
Surprising he's not front of house, you know? No
Yeah.
spoilers.
No spoilers, but go watch The Bear. This is your sign too. With that, Jacob, what are we listening to this week?
Okay, I'm actually excited. You kind of turned me on to not to this artist, but
I was going to say, I do not know who this person
the
is.
idea of like a show's coming up, you got to go through the back catalog of an artist.
Oh, yes. Okay.
So I actually really like this artist. I discovered him in the pandemic, Hobo Johnson. He's like marketed as a vocalist because sometimes it's a little rappy, sometimes it's a little singy, sometimes it's a little talky over just like some interesting beats and music and whatnot. It sounds a little cliche, but I would even call him like a modern poet of a sorts.
Interesting.
Because he just has, I don't know, I just find him really interesting. And from the clips that I've seen on social media and YouTube and whatnot, his live shows look really, really good as well. Really engaging with the audience.
So are you going to see him live? Is that why you're listening
so I'm
to
going to see him in a week, or when this come out. I've probably just seen him. And I'm super excited about it because he was one of the artists that like I listened to so much in the pandemic when there was really nothing else going on. Then I'm like, I'd love to see that guy live one day. And then all of a sudden opportunity strikes and here I am. So I've just been doing what you kind of do a lot is if you have a show coming up, really dive into all their music so you know what's going on. Well,
that's exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm listening to a lot of Maggie Rogers because I'm seeing her. Well, when this comes out, I'll be seeing her the next night. I am very excited. I've never seen her live before.
Okay, I was going to say go ahead.
Is she good? You've seen her?
I think that she is better live than on the records.
Oh, well, I love that. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm seeing her next week and I'm very excited about it. So I'm going back and listening to like all of her older stuff. I don't care about being surprised by set lists. Like I want to know what songs I'm going to hear. So I'll just listen to the set list for the next 2 weeks of like what her set list is and then I'll know all the songs.
Yeah.
So hopefully that's
so good. Goal. When I saw her, she did I think a Neil Young cover. I don't know if she's still doing covers as part of her set.
Yeah, she does a couple still.
She just has such a unique, not just voice, but like a unique way of making a song her own too. Yeah. That when I heard that Neil Young cover, I was like, wow, this is so good.
I'm so excited.
It's a good show.
Good. Jacob approved. We love to see it. Today we're joined by not only one of my dearest friends, but someone I immensely look up to. Jade Watson is the founder and executive producer of Sick Bird Productions, a full-service production company specializing in digital, unscripted content based out of Los Angeles. From university bar nights to TIFF parties and watching her growing media empire, I'm so lucky to not only call Jade a friend, but to have her here on Talking Fast. Please welcome Jade Watson.
Hi.
Thanks for being here.
I'm so excited. Thanks for having me.
I'm so excited too. This is not the first time we've done a podcast together, actually. No. We did one in my living room in the pandemic.
This is way nicer. We have a whole studio and setup. I'm really impressed.
Up a little bit.
That one was like good, and it's like we were sitting cross-legged, just like staring into each other's eyes, chatting. So that was like it was still good. It was just different.
Yeah. This is like way more legit.
This is also not the first time we've started a podcast where you mentioned university bar nights with an old friend.
But that's what always happens. I've like honestly like how I met Jade was because of our friend Kate. They were working on a practicum project together and they came to my bar night that I was hosting when I worked for Budweiser to talk to my boss at Budweiser. And that's when I was like knew you were going to be successful in life because you networked unlike anybody else I'd ever seen in my life before. That night. Yeah. I was like, I literally was like, I'd never met you before. I was like, who is this girl? And Kate's like, that's Jade. That's why I brought her. And it was amazing. Like just watching her. I don't
even remember doing that.
I know. It's like something that's probably like so minor for you, but like for me,
core memory.
Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's because the first time we met. But so I mentioned the intro that you own and operate Sick Bird Productions out in Los Angeles. So I want to start off by maybe you giving a lay of the land. What is Sick Bird and how you started a company in another country? Because you are from here, so that's kind of crazy.
Yeah. So born and raised in Toronto. I started Sick Bird in 2019, so 4 years ago now. Kind of how I was able to start was I basically, started my career in Toronto. I did a program called RTA in LA, which is basically like a UCLA extension program. And then after I did that extension program, I was doing a ton of networking with different people that had come in to speak with our class. And I met someone who worked at Time Magazine. I ended up getting an internship there, worked there for 3 months, and then had this like very dramatic like whole situation where they were like, there's one job for the interns and like, someone's gonna get it. And it did like 3 rounds of interviews, end up getting the job. And then I'm packing my stuff, like ready to go work in New York City. I'm so excited. And I get a call from HR being like, you're so junior that they won't fund your visa. So sorry, goodbye.
No.
And like it took them 3 rounds, like even through 3 rounds of interviews, they didn't
everyone
realize.
interviewed me. I had like briefly, you know, I'd accepted a verbal offer from like the head of digital content at time. Basically, my role was going to be, you know, being his day-to-day assistant, like the head of all digital. And before that, I was taking magazine articles and turning them into digital videos to be monetized on Facebook and Instagram and all those different platforms. But it was very dramatic, like going from spending all of my money living and working in New York, making like $12 an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So the way that I could afford to do it was I had worked at bars in Toronto like my whole life. And so I ended up saving all of that money, spending it to afford rent, basically living off of that $12 an hour. And then when I accepted the offer, I was super excited because I was like, okay, this is a real like salaried position. Like this is so exciting.
Yeah.
But it was just so low that for them, like going through the full H-1B visa process, like just wasn't worth it for an assistant level position. They could find someone else. So I went from working in the World Trade Center building to then being in like my parents' basement, like very quickly.
That's literally like 100 to 0.
Very
overnight.
humbling. Yeah, it was very, very humbling. And so after I had that happen, I was like, okay, I'm going to like learn the visa process. I'm going to figure this out. I still really wanted to go work in the US because obviously I love Toronto so much, but I just wanted to like experience what maybe a bigger market would look like. So I researched what the visa process could be for me and what was realistic given like my education level and given, you know, my background. So I found out that you can get this thing called a TN visa, you know, obviously in graphic design, which was close because I have a degree in media production. And so I was able to get a TN graphic design visa working at a VC firm in Los Angeles. So then that brought me out to LA. That was basically like a glorified sort of like MBA program where I was able to go in and learn about how a ton of different businesses were, you know, created and how businesses run and like, you know, what it means to create content for a ton of different startups. So I did that for 2 years. And then after I did that, I was like, well, I kind of want to be able to not have to be like locked into this one thing and like have to be locked into like this one company, because the way it works when you have a visa is, you know, you are sponsored and basically a company will like sponsor you and like represent your visa. But if you ever want to take on freelance work, you're technically not really able to. It has to all run through one entity. So I was like, okay, this isn't going to happen long term, because if, you know, like God forbid the company went under or something happened, like I'll lose my visa. So I started researching what it would mean to start a company, because then I could take on more clients, I could go in whatever lane I wanted, and like that would give me like so much more freedom.
And then like your livelihood of where you live is dependent on yourself and not on the company you work for.
100%. It was like so much more empowering. And for me, it was like, I never was like, oh, I want to be this like business owner. Like that really wasn't it. I just wanted like the freedom that comes along with it, to be able to be like, okay, like I can choose where I live. I can choose what projects I do. I can choose what clients I work with. And then I can choose like the people around me. So that was really exciting. And then I also could choose like the mission and like what we want to represent and what we want to do. So basically, a really good friend of mine had done something similar where she had started a company. She was from the UK, and I couldn't afford any legal fees at the time because I was like, you know, still really early in my career. The legal fees were like going to be 10 grand or something like that. And I was like, that was not feasible for me. And so what I did was she ended up sending me like her visa application, and then I basically studied it and then applied like all of my own like sort of best practices. Like, so.
And that's what a lawyer would have put together for her.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So it was like, okay, she basically sent me like probably 80 pages worth of stuff that a lawyer had put together for her. She had got her visa and then she shared it with me. Obviously, the average person would never do that. We were like best friends.
Yeah.
So it was very nice of her to like show me all this personal information. But what I then did was like I studied it and then I like put my own company spin on it, right? Like, so I was like, okay, well, if you need to have a certain number of clients say yes before you start the company, what does that look like for me? And who can I get as my clients? And like, how big do they need to be? If I need to show that, okay, we're going to make a certain amount of hires right away, like what does that look like? So I was able to pull like a template and kind of go from there, but it took so much time. Like I remember doing my day job from like 9 to 5 and then like 6 till 10 every night I'd be like figuring out the visa.
Yeah, and maybe to your credit though, like granted, not a lot of people would maybe share that with their friends, but I also think on the other side, probably not a lot of people would look at an 80-page document and say, let me sit down and study this and
know every little thing.
Yeah. Have you always had a mind like that to really maybe not dive into the paperwork side of it, but to be in control of, I guess, your own future?
Yeah, I was really desperate. So yeah.
But that's so crazy. Like that's like something you have to do for like, I mean, we all know that working in the States, like even when we were in school. So again, like we all went to the RT School of Media. It's like this thing like, oh, like working in the States and the visa, and the word visa is just thrown around so much. So even the fact that like you took into control like your own, like I'm going to learn this system. Yeah. And I'm sure like by like learning the whole visa process, like the back of your hand and the different visas you've even had or the process that you've gone through, I'm sure that would have helped when you were hiring for Sickbird as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say like it was really nice because I started with a really clear plan. And so obviously things like will change and evolve as you start a business, but that was nice because I'm like, okay, I've just like done all of this insane preparation and like, you know, talked this big game to this visa officer, and like if I don't, you know, execute on this and if I go to renew it, I'm gonna get denied. So like that's also the other thing too. So you have to then like, you know, do what you say you're gonna do. And then because when you go to reapply after 5 years, it's kind of like if you're not moving in the trajectory you say you were going to, it's going to raise questions.
And then it was like, what was the point of combing through an 80-page article?
Yeah, then it just becomes a big fat not worth it situation.
So what was I guess the core of that plan though, and then has it panned out the way that you have kind of hoped?
Yeah, I mean, I went generic enough where it was like, we're going to have a decent amount of revenue from clients coming in, which panned out fine. You know, I would say that I'm not creating a company that's like insanely, like it's not rocket science at all. It's very much like, you know, we're a production company, we work as a service business, and then we create IP. Like it's very, very simple. Like there are a lot of other companies that do this. The reason why we're different is because we have like a mission to like highlight women and diverse stories, right? Like that's very simply like what we're doing. So I think for us, you know, our model is unique because we reinvest profits of like what we're making from brands and businesses into our original IP. So it allows us to have like fun and like, you know, get creative. But the day-to-day operations are very simple. Like it's not like we're reinventing any crazy production.
Maybe you can talk about it a little bit, the importance of elevating maybe different voices that are underrepresented in media. Where does that come from for you?
Yeah, I think it's just fun. Like, quite honestly, I mean, for us, I've always had like a fascination of like learning about the world through, you know, other perspectives and like unique storytelling. And that's always been really interesting to me. And like, I, you know, try to like travel to different places and like, you know, talk to people with different perspectives. And that to me just like, you know, paints a little bit of a wider lens on the world, which is really interesting and fun. So it's not, you know, anything overly political. It's not anything, you know, to get on some sort of like high horse with. It's more so just I enjoy like learning about other people's perspectives, and I find that it's interesting for me. So, you know, with that being said, what fun content can we make around this?
And that's probably the best way to approach it too, right? Because I think that a lot of maybe even like traditional media companies a lot of the time are like
the big boys.
kind of move toward like being more open to diverse voices and whatnot from the perspective of like tokenism. Like how can we work in some of the, it's not like different people into our existing slate without actually being passionate about the stories that are interesting
well, then
to
it's
be
just
told.
like inherently more authentic because it's just like natural
That's what I mean,
curiosity,
yeah.
natural curiosity versus forced mandates.
Yeah, exactly.
What's been the hardest part about being so when you were by yourself, you're like combing through these 80 pages and now you have like employees and people that work for you and depend on you and you have all these clients. What's been the hardest part though about being a founder?
I love that question. I think it's probably the balance between hiring the right people and then having the perfect client workflow at the same time. Like that balance, like no one really thinks of that. So it's like, okay, we maybe have like an A+ team member on, you know, our team at the moment, right? But if we don't have the work for them that's going to motivate them and empower them and keep them wanting more and get them excited about the company, like they're going to leave. And then vice versa, we could nail the best client in the world, but if we don't have the right team on standby, like we're not going to execute well. So it's like this weird thing of trying to be in the perfect, like, okay, you're pitching yourself as this amazing company. And then when you finally get this work, like you need to make sure that you're ready for it. And like also like clients' needs and you know, markets change, right? So like we were in a recession, and like that obviously affected our business because content spending went down. And so, you know, how do we keep our dream team together and like readjust things? So it's like that weird balance of like, you know, we have amazing clients that we work with and then we have amazing team members, but it's like having both of them on this like perfect sort of like tray.
Well, how do you balance that? Like what does that look like?
Yeah, so basically we work with clients and try to do year-long deals, which is like really untraditional, especially like given what normal agencies will do, like 3-month deals, 6-month deals. But we, you know, we'll start off with a 3-month deal with our clients, and then they'll get to know us and love working with us. And then from there, like we try to get them to commit to at least a year-long deal, because that way we really can have the best team behind them. And when my team has stability and they feel like, you know, they know that we're growing and we all have the same ideas and we all have the same goals for the account, and that it's not just going to go away or be renegotiated, like we can move from a place of like longevity and success. And that's really like how we, you know, try our best to give some level of stability to the team.
So one of the main areas where you guys create original content is in the podcast space, obviously, because we are a podcast, we want to talk about it. And one of your most successful shows has been Petty Crimes, which like I feel like you're posting a new article that they're featured in like every other week, it feels like, which is so crazy. I guess my first question is, why the podcast space?
Yeah, I like podcasts, and kudos to you for starting one because it's really hard. But I love podcasts because I think long form discussions are really, you know, interesting. And I like the idea of how intimate it feels. Like you can like listen to a podcast when you're in the car by yourself. It feels like you're kind of like talking to a friend, or like, you know, if you're folding laundry or going to the gym or whatever that looks like. I just think that podcasts really allow you to sort of like have this extra level of intimacy with an audience that isn't always there. I'm sure you feel like this too. Like if you compare podcasting to, let's say, TikTok, I feel like the podcast audience who listens to you probably knows so much more about your life, you know, compared to like just a quick TikTok video, right? Like this, you're able to have more like in-depth conversations and open up a little bit.
I always say it's like my more authentic version of myself that you're seeing. Not that I'm like inherently inauthentic, but it's like, it's going to happen. Like you're cutting down an entire day into a 1-minute video. Like you're cutting out a lot of the middle stuff. For sure, it's a highlight reel. Whether you're trying to make it look like one or not, it is a highlight reel. So it's you know your most like true version of a person when you have to have them sit down and talk for 40 minutes as opposed to 1 minute. So then maybe talk about Petty Crimes a bit, because maybe talk about the concept of it, and like I think it's so clever. And then how did you know that like this show was going to be like a like hit it out of the park, like a home run?
Totally. Well, so when we were ready to like, when we had enough money to start the network, it was like, okay, we'd had about a year or two of working with clients. We saved up enough internally to be like, okay, we're ready to like pay for a producer to come on and like actually help and manage this. We can pay an editor to help and manage this. We can invest in like the gear internally. So like we did all of that. And then Bella on my team, she's an amazing producer. She went through and basically I was like, look, I want to be working with some really young, fun, creative people who already have a following online, but we can leverage their following for marketing, right? So like podcast marketing. And so she went in and did a deep dive and grabbed like a list of really interesting names from people that were in the TikTok space, on the Instagram space, all of it. And so we then started doing like screening calls with like a ton of different creators just to kind of get to know them and see if we wanted to fund their show. We ended up meeting this amazing creator named Kira O'Sullivan, who had these like hilarious skits, and she actually came to us so polished. She was like, look, I actually went to school with someone named Griff. We're really, really good friends. You know, we have really opposing perspectives on a lot of things, and we're really into petty drama. Why don't we do something where, look, we will, you know, get people to write in every single week the most like petty, crazy drama that they can. He and I will deliberate and kind of discuss it, and then we will give it a verdict, whether it's criminal or minimal. And they go through everyone. They say who's wrong. They say who's right. And it's just really funny and lighthearted. And it's kind of like our comedic take on true crime. So obviously like true crime podcasts are blowing up, but people who really wanted that true crime feeling with a little bit more of like a comedic twist love Petty Crimes. And then Kira, it was crazy because we basically signed Kira a year ago, and like 6 months into our show, she got cast as a writer on SNL and still was doing the podcast with us, because what happened was we had a whole team like ready to like make this as easy as it could be for her. We had a producer on standby, we have editors, like we had the whole thing, people making clips, and that was done so that like the creators could come and really just focus on being good hosts, right? So that was what we kind of brought to the table as a production company, and then they brought the marketing and sort of like creative.
It's such a simple concept. It's so funny because like
so
especially
simple.
with like podcasts too, like some people are like there's too many podcasts, but whatever, but it's like
Yeah.
no one was doing that still, yet it's such a simple concept, which makes it.
Do you think
like,
that's
gold.
the idea, is being more simple? Because the question that everyone asks is like, why do you need another podcast? Because there are just so many out there. But maybe that's it, right? Is like finding the right idea.
Well, I'll even talk about what didn't go well on our shows. So like we launched another podcast called Rebranding, and like I loved the creator of it named Daniel Bennett. He was absolutely amazing. But what we noticed was his show concept was like just interviewing different TikTokers. Like that was his whole show concept. But what happened was, because every different like TikToker who came on had such a different audience, it was like people weren't sticking through and staying.
Yeah.
He had his main like core audience, which was fantastic, but what people come to every single week is like Kira and Griff's like witty banter. Like they know what they're gonna get, they know it's gonna be funny, similar to you guys, how like you guys will have like banter and like you guys balance each other out well. That's what we got with Petty Crimes, and that's what I think people go to, is like, if a show is just simply a guest-based podcast, it won't work. But if you have like a dynamic that people enjoy, that's what they'll come back to.
Well, it's like always having that like RTR, right? That reason to return. Like you need like the thing that's gonna make people want to come back, and not just like, because I'm the same way. How many podcasts have we all listened to where it's like, oh, like I don't know, X singer who you listen to never goes on podcasts, but they go on this one. So you'll listen to that one episode and then you'll dip out. Yeah. So
exactly.
I think it's, having like a strong reason to return, and just like, you're right, a good dynamic is like what makes it perfect. Also, I think podcasts, like all content, you evolve as a person and what you want to listen to. I don't listen to the same shows I listened to 5 years ago when I started listening to podcasts. And like, there were shows that I listened to that I like went to their tours and all that stuff, but I wouldn't be able to tell you what they're doing now because I don't listen anymore. So people evolve too. So I think it's like, as long as there's new content always coming out, then people will.
And speaking of, I guess, evolving as well. So talking about challenges and maybe what didn't go well in that show, have there been other pivots with like maybe your career or the company in general where you've had to change based on maybe market forces or what people are buying, or, you know, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, like TikTok didn't exist when I started the company, right? And now it's like one of our, you know, key sources of revenue is like creating TikTok content for brands and businesses. Another thing too is like Snapchat as a company. We have a lot of our revenue coming from Snapchat Discover pages, and you know, we're noticing that the accounts that had started early that were grandfathered in are doing really, really well, but then the market is slowly becoming saturated. So we're figuring out how to sell ads across our Snapchat shows and not just rely on, you know, that platform to generate revenue. So the thing that changes the most is like all the platforms change, right? So like when algorithms change, or when your, you know, revenue is reliant on like, you know, data analytics and views from a platform, like as soon as those platforms change, inherently your business needs to change as well. So, you know, for us, like I've pivoted to make sure that we're working with different companies that rely on content as a part of their business. So it's harder for them to just sort of like cut ties with us because they need content. Whereas other companies like smaller CPG brands, like maybe don't need content as much as a part of their core business as, you know, someone like a Universal. Like we work, for example, doing like all of the diversity, equity, and inclusion content across Universal pictures. And like for them, content is such a core part of their business, and they've dedicated budgets to it. So it's a lot more secure than like, let's say, a random CPG brand.
Obviously, like as part of one of the core pillars of Sickbird in general is like giving a voice to like people that might not otherwise have one. But you also, whether you like realize it or not, you inherently are giving one to like female founders, and it's way less common in especially the production space, which is why, and especially you doing it in another country. So what advice would you give to somebody that's like a young woman that's listening to this, and maybe they have an idea or like something they want to start, and how they get over that imposter syndrome, if you had any, or that like that fear of becoming a female founder?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I never it's so weird because like I never prioritized like being a founder, or thought of being a founder as like this scary thing, because it was like a means to like somewhere else. It was like, okay, how am I going to live in LA and basically have the freedom to take on projects that I want being a founder just like fell into that. It wasn't like oh, I need to like start my own business and like, you know, become a founder and do all these things. It was like sort of like a weird like circular way to get to something that I just knew I wanted.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like this big thing that had a ton of weight. And ever since I like didn't feel that way, it came really easily because I didn't put pressure on it. So like there's no need to be like, you know, I need to be a founder and do all this and that. It's like, take the pressure off of it. You're basically just accomplishing a goal. You know what I mean? And think of it as that. And I wouldn't put all this weight around that title and have that feel really scary because it's really, you know, there are executives on my team that do way more work than me some days. You know what I mean? And so, you know, just because you're running a company, it doesn't mean that you're always necessarily going to be the one who's like, you know, I don't want to say like doing the most, but like there are some pivotal team members that like drive the ship just as much as me at Sickbird. So I think taking the weight and pressure off yourself and just thinking about the goal rather than the title is probably a lot more beneficial.
I love that. So how important is it to have a strong team?
The most important ever.
Yeah.
I mean, mine's tough because like it's a weird balance of like we want to work with people who are super creative, but then also some people who are more like organized. And I'm just now like 4 years in hiring like very specific jobs for each. Before, when I was like new, I would be like, you can be creative and organized, right? And that wasn't always the case. And I got myself into a lot of trouble and shit was very messy for a long time.
But I also think it's like admirable when people can, like when you hire people and just knowing you and your team, like knowing like gaps that you have as a like in your skill set, and then hiring people who are like, because if you can, like I've always thought this way too, if you can hire someone that's like better than you at something, then like then that's how you become the best, or that's how you guys become the most operational team. And it's I think sometimes people get too narrow-minded with that, so it's like I've always thought the best way for growth. For
sure. And then in terms of growth and goals, so Sickbird is here now. Where is it going?
Where's it flying to?
We're flying to Saudi Arabia next. So we just shot a documentary series in Egypt, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, so went to Egypt for a week, shot a docuseries there. Next on our list is going to Saudi Arabia, so just going to a ton of different places and highlighting different women in those spots. We're working on a licensing deal with Delta, Emirates, Air Canada to have that content like live on the airlines, as well as working with Lionsgate to distribute that content across different fast channels. So that's like our big high-level
I love
company.
that you're talking about fast channels. I talk about fast channels at work all the time, and nobody knows what
Really?
they are.
Yeah.
Like here, it's Canada. We're 5 years behind everything.
Yeah.
Like, nobody knows. I go, you know, like when you turn on your television, your Samsung, and it accidentally goes to the Deal or No Deal channel, where it's just like Deal or No Deal on repeat all day. I know.
Which is a wild channel to be on.
I know, it's crazy. That's so exciting.
Yeah. So working on that. We want to, you know, throw a couple more podcasts out there and see what works. So definitely looking to, you know, collaborate with more creators, looking to grow on the business front. So working with more like brands and studios just to like get their content moving. But I would say number one is like more podcasts, you know, do a couple more unscripted shows and just slowly keep growing it. Like we're definitely in it for like the long game. So looking at the next like 5 years in the market, not trying to like quickly sell it and flip it by any means, just growing more IP.
I love that. Well, thank you so much for coming on Talking
No
Fast.
problem.
It feels so full circle. I go to Jade for like a lot of questions about all things media, so this is perfect. This is the point in the pod where you get to plug yourself or your company or do whatever you want and leave a final message into your camera.
This one?
Yep.
Follow us at Sickbird Productions on Instagram. You can DM us if you're looking for a job. We're also hiring interns this year. So if you're someone new to the industry or looking to get your foot in the door, you'll notice our social media pages are very outdated and we're looking to change that. And we're looking for someone to help us with that. So please DM me, or you can also DM me on my personal account at It's Jade Watson. And yeah, you can check out our website, sickbirdproduction.com. You can email me directly from there. My email is hooked up to the contact us, so I will get everything personally and get back to you very soon. Okay, thank you.
You're going to get like 50 or 60 emails of people. Like Izzy's going to be one of them, and you have to throw that one out if she does.
Izzy, can I take you?
She's doing her master's. She's a smarty pants.
Oh, nice.
Welcome back to our voicemail segment where every single week we try and give you the best advice we can. And we are so lucky to have Jade sticking around with us for the voicemail segment. We're going to have 3 questions. We never really know what we're going to get. Sometimes it's like, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? And then others, it's like, what do you think happens after we die? So we don't really know what we're going to get. As a reminder, if you ever want to ask us a question, you can send us a message on Talking Fast Show Instagram or email us at talkingfastshow@gmail.com. Are we ready?
We're ready.
We're ready. Okay.
I'm just happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here. So the first one is, can you talk to marathon training / race day? I know Jacob has experience, and they're speaking about a marathon specifically. I am not training for a marathon. I'm only training for a half marathon. I would like to clarify. We'll see once I do half if I ever want to double that and do a full. But these two have both ran multiple marathons. So maybe talk about marathon training. What's like your number 1 tip for training for a marathon?
You start, because I'm not very good at training. So you can
Well, I came into my first one a little cocky, I think, and didn't really take the training as seriously as probably someone should. So I think first and foremost is just like know and understand that a marathon is a beast. It's a different beast than even a half or something like that.
Well, yeah, it's literally double.
Yeah, and that second half is
rough.
Is rough. Yeah. So I think respect your long run when training. Like I do mine on the Sundays. Respect that and build it appropriately throughout your training block. Do a solid training block, like minimum, I would say, for someone starting out, do 16 weeks probably. And run slow on your long runs is the biggest thing. A lot of people will hurt themselves or just not have fun or like be a little bit hard on themselves if they're not reaching like time goals for, we got 16 kilometers this weekend, but I ran it slower than I wanted to. You should be running slow. Let your body build up that base and you'll feel a lot stronger come race day.
How about you?
I went and got specific shoes fitted from this place called like the Run Room or something like that. Running Room in LA. And basically where you like run on a treadmill and then they like monitor your feet. And so I think like really, really supportive like shoes and gear is super important. Just so that you don't like, have bad knees or like, obviously running super hard on your joints. So I think that that's important. Another thing that I did was I took just like a ton of vitamins. So I would take like vitamins and supplements just to make sure I was like replenishing my body. And then the last thing is I would like ice certain parts of my body if they're like sore, just to help with like inflammation, and then also rolling things out. So like rolling out your calves and stuff like that after you're done running for me was like a game changer.
I'm struggling with the calves.
Yeah,
right
no,
now.
we laughed a little bit because we were just talking about this.
I literally texted Jacob this morning going like, how do I make myself, I cried today, my calves hurt so much,
it's
like
horrible.
in pain. So I ordered a foam roller, I ordered a Theragun, and I watched TikToks for 30 minutes while on the ground trying to learn stretches. Everyone's like, wiggle your toes because they're attached to your cuffs and all that stuff. So just little things like that.
Recovery's so important.
Oh yeah. And one thing that I will never forget was like a big thing was, rolling 100% after was like great, but then doing an active stretch before and then a legitimate stretch after, not trying to stretch too much first because then you pull stuff, but like active stretch first. It's almost like a warm up, then you run, then you stretch.
That's all advice I need to take because I'm really bad at that. I just like put on my shoes and start running. But now that I'm getting to bigger distances, I can't. Well, for like a 5K, I could do that.
Yeah,
but for now, like longer
can
distances,
get away
I
with
can't
it,
do it. Speaking of 5K, Jake and I literally just decided today when we were recording this episode. And so by this point, we're rolling. It'll be
this weekend.
Yep. We decided that we're going to do the Talking Fast, Running Faster first 5K. So this is not a race. It is a running group that we're going to do. If you didn't know, Jacob does a running group actually every single week. So he's a professional at this now. We're going to have different pace groups. So if you're a beginner, don't worry. And if you've been, I don't know, maybe watched videos or like you've been wanting to run, you have like itch to get back into it, definitely come out. We're going to be doing 5K along the waterfront in downtown Toronto. We're going to have snacks and drinks and giveaways and music, and Izzy's going to be there to be our hype girl.
Just
and
all good times, getting out in the city, having a little exercise.
We're also going to have Jacob's sister take us through a stretch at the beginning.
Yes, we've talked about this on the podcast before. Emma actually basically introduced us via sending me a TikTok link to Sarah, so she's responsible. It's coming full circle.
Yeah.
She's a Pilates instructor in the city, so she's going to help us out.
So Talking Fast, Running Faster, it is on Saturday, August 12th. Make sure you come out, and you can find all the information on our Instagram or on my page. It is a free event, so just make sure you sign up through the not Ticketmaster. Just make sure you sign up through the Eventbrite link. Yeah, you should definitely come out. If you're still in the city,
We'll see you there.
I'll come.
Yes.
Next question for voicemail. You got it?
Voicemail question number 2, and I feel like this is maybe targeted at the both of you, or it could be interpreted that way. How are you able to do so many things in a month? And then the person also said they're in awe of your energy.
You go.
It depends on if we're doing them well. Okay, so I've always been of the proponent. So, like, this is the example I was giving someone the other day. Someone asked me the same question. When I was posting 3 TikTok videos a day, every single day, I just kept with that, and that was my standard. So I didn't know anything different. The second I went down to 2 videos, I was never going back to 3.
Right.
Like it's just about the consistency of what you're doing. So I've always been a very busy person. Well, at least like post since pandemic life. And since I've just kept up with that, I've never known anything any different. I will say I'm a lot better now thanks to therapy, that I now do take breaks for myself and make time for myself. So even though I look really busy, sometimes I am finding those pockets of peace for myself in that time. So as an example, it sounds crazy, but airplanes are a really peaceful time for me because I can't be on my phone. I don't buy Wi-Fi, or refuse to, and I can just sit there and read my book and shut off my brain and have a nap. And it's truly just me time. I don't talk to people on planes. So although I look busy and I'm like running all over the world or whatever it might be, those are moments where I have to myself where I can create time for myself. And I think that's a good recharge time. But otherwise, I just have always been operating at this level. And if I ever stop, then I will not go back. I'll become a homebody for good. But I just think it's about keeping operating. How about you? Because you're very busy. You're always jet setting all over the world.
Yeah, I'm a big list girl. So I always have like a ton of different lists. I'll have like a personal calendar and then a work calendar, and I operate off of everything off of that. And then I will schedule time in my calendar to take breaks. So I'll like actually I make breaks like a part of my work week. Like, so it'll be like, you know I have some stuff to do and I like to get ahead of emails on Sunday nights, so that Monday I go in and I don't have any scaries and I'm good to go. So like what I'll do is I'll say, okay, Saturday's my rest day. This is what I want to get done on Saturday, specifically no phone Saturday. And then Sunday I know, okay, this is what I'm doing. So I'll schedule the breaks so that it's all like in my calendar. And then list wise, I just kind of keep everything on like a high level list. And then I'm also pretty good at delegating. So that's something I've gotten better at.
That's something.
Delegation is huge.
You know what's so funny? I'm really good at it in my day job. And I feel like it's because of the way the structure of that company works. In my regular life, I'm very bad at it. So that's what I'm Jesus Christ, he's gonna kill me. In my regular life, I'm very bad at it. So that's what I'm like trying to learn how to do right now. And I need to be better at calendars.
Lists are important, but everyone's different. Like I don't use a calendar really.
But you're like a list guy?
I use the Notes app
just
on my phone, and I create a to-do list every single day, and then I have like a daily and then a high level, like what are we doing for the month kind of thing. We'll tackle those when we can kind of get to them.
I always wanted to ask you this because so if I text Jacob, what do I have to do today? He'll send me a list. So do you have a list for each different client too on what they have to do? Or is that just out of your brain?
Most of it's in the brain.
That's
and I think
crazy.
that's just how it operates. So it's just like if we're managing, like say every client has, I don't know, between 5 and 10 things happening at once, little projects. It's a lot, but it's like easy to kind of.
I literally just pictured it as like different tabs or like sticky notes on your computer, and then you just copy and paste it. Because I ask for the same things like 9 times. I go, can you send me that again? Can you send me that brief again?
Maybe it's just the repetition. I just like know how to access it so quickly.
Yeah, that's true. That's so interesting.
It's just like it's whatever works for you, right?
So our final question for voicemail, I think is really good because you've actually moved away to a new city. So the question was specifically any tips on working and moving to Toronto as a new grad, but I think you could also give tips on moving to a new city because I think maybe, I don't know, if someone went to Guelph or Western or whatever, they've never moved to a new city before, and now like Toronto obviously being like the Mecca in Canada, what are those first steps? What is the best tips that you guys could give to someone looking to move to a new city right after school? So they're babies, they're only like 22.
Yeah, I would like just definitely start, getting involved in activities that feel good for you. So whether that's like joining a gym or whether that's like, going to concerts or like just involving yourself in things that you're really, excited about outside of work. So something that I did when I first moved to LA is I joined a gym there and became friends with the people that I would do like a workout with every Monday and just sort of slowly like building up those communities. And so I would say don't be afraid to sort of like say hi to someone who's like in maybe a workout class with you, or, you know, say hi to someone if you're going out and trying different things. And don't be afraid to do things alone too. Like I know that is sometimes really, really scary for people, but even if it's something as simple as like just going to the coffee shop by yourself, or like going for a long walk around a city by yourself, you'll see a lot more and like get a feel and pulse for what's going on around you, especially in Toronto. Toronto's such a walking city that like even just walking around, I'm sure you'll find like cool restaurants or coffee shops or places that you'll want to check out.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be my tip, is like anything that can break you out of like establishing a routine. A routine's great, obviously, on the work side of things, but if you're going to get bogged down in that, you're not really exploring your city, you're not meeting new people, which is also so important for avoiding burnout and just having a community and being able to, you know, essentially be happy, hopefully, while you're working. But yeah, trying a new coffee shop, taking a different route home. I'm a hugely in favor of anything that can break your routine.
I also went on like so many dates when I first moved to LA.
Just join Hinge.
Literally, no, I'm not joking. That like was so fun. Like I would tell people that I was dating, like, oh, I'm new to LA, and they'd always try to take me to like the cool spots or something that's a little bit different.
Smart.
So I went to like a Lakers game, I went to a hockey game, I went to like a ton of different like restaurants, and like that was really actually like fun and easy. So that was like, and if you have a partner already and you're moving with someone, then you can just go on dates together. So I would say going on dates was like a big way that I got to know LA.
My friend just moved back to Toronto and she's been going on dates, and then if the date whatever hasn't worked out, she'll be like, oh, I found this really cool spot, and then we go to the spot after. So then I'm now pseudo discovering new parts of Toronto, which is so fun. I would say my biggest piece of advice is think about what you prioritize when you're moving to a city. So if you're somebody that wants to be close to work, then prioritize that when you're looking to budget for like tangibly like moving and like trying to figure that out. If you're someone that you don't want to be close to work and you're fine with that, then like maybe you can afford a bigger place living a little bit further away in like a different neighborhood, but you will be taking the TTC every single day. So just think about what you prioritize when it comes to your work-life balance, how close to work you want to be, how close to your friends you want to be. I think like what a lot of people in the city do is take more the mentality if they live close to their friends and then they can like walk to work or get to work another way. So just make sure you know what you're prioritizing when you're moving here, because that's how you're going to figure out your budget too when figuring out like where am I going to live, how many roommates am I going to need, and like do I need to buy a TTC pass.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That was a good one.
Thank you so much, Jade, for joining us again. If you guys are not subscribed already on all of the things, what are you doing? Please subscribe to Talking Fast, give us 5 stars, all those things that everybody says to do. And we will be back here next Wednesday, just like every single week. Thanks for listening. Bye.